This lesson is on distance on a coordinate plane. Finding distance on a coordinate plane. Sometimes finding the distance between points on a coordinate plane is as simple as looking and counting the number of units, like in graph A. If we look at graph A, we can count the number of units. So we have 1, 2, 3. So that has a distance of 3 units. Other times we might need to find a diagonal distance, like in graph B. We cannot just count through the boxes like this, so we have to use another method. To find a diagonal distance on a coordinate plane, we can create our own right triangle and use the Pythagorean Theorem to calculate the distance. The diagonal distance would then represent the hypotenuse, or the C as we call it. If you look up here at graph B, watch how we can take that diagonal and turn it into a right triangle. See how we can do that to connect? And then we have our right angle right here, and then it's easy to count our A and our B and use the Pythagorean Theorem to find the C. Use the Pythagorean Theorem to find the distance between points A and B on each graph. Round answers to the nearest tenth. So first of all, we're going to connect A to B, and then we're going to create a right triangle by either, you can go two ways. You can go over and up, or if you rather, you can go up and then over. It really doesn't matter. But we just have to make sure we create that right angle right there. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we are going to count our base. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 units on our base, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units on our height. So we go to our Pythagorean Theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and we plug in what we know. Now remember, across from that 90-degree angle is always our c, and we don't know our c. The other two numbers will be our a and our b. So it doesn't matter if it's 4 is a and 5 is b, or vice versa. That doesn't really matter. I'm going to let this be my a and this be my b. So I'm going to do 4 squared plus 5 squared equals c squared. 4 squared, 4 times 4, 16. 5 squared is 25. Bring down the equals c squared. Then we're going to add those together. So 16 plus 25 is 41. And then remember, once you get that far, you've got to get rid of that squared, so we're going to do the square root. So we have to do the square root of 41. And it says to round to the nearest tenth in the directions. So that's going to be 6.4. Okay, number 2. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to connect our A to our B. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. That one's a little bit steep, and we're going to create our right triangle with our right angle. Remembering that across from there is C, that distance that we're trying to find. And then we're going to count our base, which is 2, and our height, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we're going to plug straight into the Pythagorean Theorem. Remember, we don't know our C. So I'm just going to let A and B be 7 and 2. 7 squared is 49. 2 squared is 4. 49 plus 4 is 53. And then we square root it. Remember to go to the tens place. Now that comes out to 7.28. So I'm going to write that down for just a second. But remember, we're going to the tenths place, so we have to look next door. Is this 5 or higher? If it is, then we can round this up. So it's going to be 7.3. All right. Pause this and try number 3, and then start it back up and see how you did. Okay, let's check your work. So this is what our right triangle should look like. We've got 8 on the base, 8 on the height. So we have 8 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared, because remember, there's your right angle, so that's your c. So 64 plus 64. Again, I'm going a little quickly because you should have already done this, so you should just be checking it at this point. So we're looking for the square root of 128, and I'm getting 11.3. All right, on the next one, excuse me, the next few, we are going to use the graph and the Pythagorean theorem to find the distance between the points. So the first thing we have to do is we have to plot these points in number 4. So we've got -6, 1. So starting at the origin, remember, which is right here, we need to go left 6 and up 1, because that would be -6, +1. And then -4, +5, so left 4 and up 5. And we're going to connect those, make our right triangle. There's our little right angle, just to make sure. So we get this straight across as our C. Now the bottom is going to be 2. The top is going to be 4. So we can set up our Pythagorean theorem here, and we can solve for that distance between those 2 points. So we're going to have 2 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared, because we don't know that distance. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 plus 16 is 20. And then if we square root, go type that in, you get C is, what do you think? 4 point, should be 5, because the 7's going to round the 4 up. Very good. Okay, let's try the next one. Plot the points. -7, -7. And +4, -3. Connect them. Make your right triangle. Label your C. Well, here's our right angle. So my C is always across from there, which means this side is my A and B, or B and A, that doesn't really matter. Okay, the base is going to be how many units? Looks like 11. And the height, 4. So 11 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared. 11 times 11 is 121. 4 times 4 is 16. 121 plus 16 is 137. Take the square root. 11.7 is that's your C. All right, I would like for you to pause this, try number 6 on your own, and then start it back up to see how you're doing. Okay, if you did that, hopefully you plotted your points here at 0, 2, and 7, 7. That's up there in quadrant 1. Your right triangle should look like this. Your C should be here. 5, 6, 7. Your base is 7. Your height is 5. So your work looks like this. When you square root, you should have gotten that C was 8.6. Okay, let's look at number 7. Find the perimeter of the trapezoid. Now, this says to find the perimeter, which means we have to find the distances of all of the sides and add them up. So some of them are really easy, like the distance of this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We know that's 6 units. And then if we find the distance here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then count up the distance for the base. What do you get? I get 12. And then we go to do the distance of this side, but it's a diagonal, and so that one is not easy to just count. So what we're going to do is we are going to look at this right triangle that's right in here, and that's going to help us figure out the distance for that orange side. So if we look at just that triangle, if we just kind of pull that triangle out and look at just that triangle so we can find the orange side, the height, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is 8. The base is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so we need to find C. So if we do 8 squared plus 6 squared equals C squared, we get 64 plus what's 6 squared? It'd be 36. Add them together. What do you get? 100. And then take the square root. Well, what's the square root of 100? What times itself is 100? It's 10. So we put the 10 right there on that side, and now it's really easy to see, okay, I've got to add all of these sides up so that I have my perimeter there. Okay, so I'm going to have 8 plus 6 plus 10 plus 12, and that is going to give me my final answer, which is 36 units. Okay, let's try number 8. Whoops. Sorry. All right, there's number 8. Find the perimeter of the parallelogram. So again, we're doing the same thing that we were just doing. All right, so we can easily find this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But we need these sides. So what we can do is we can look at this little triangle right here, and we say, okay, let's pull that one out and look at it. All right, the height is 1, 2, 3. The base is 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we do the Pythagorean Theorem, okay, because look, here's the right angle, so there's your C. Again, we don't know our C this time. We'll have 4 squared plus 3 squared equals C squared. 4 times 4 is 16. 3 times 3 is 9. 16 plus 9, what would that be? Be 25. And then take the square root, which is 5. So this distance that we didn't know is 5 here and here. And if we're finding the perimeter, that means we have to add up all of the sides. So 5 plus 9 plus 5 plus 9 would be, should be 28 units. All right, last one, number 9. In the graph below, point A represents Ashley's house, point B represents Bridget's house, and point C represents Carly's house. Each unit on the graph represents 2 miles. So this is super important because we're going to have to do something extra once we calculate our distance on here. To the nearest 10th, how many miles is Ashley's house from Bridget's house? So from A to B, how many miles is that? Well, let's make our little right triangle. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the height, and count the base. I'm getting 11. We know that here's the right triangle, or the right angle, sorry. So across from it is our C. So we're going to do 5 squared plus 11 squared equals C squared. 5 squared is 25. 11 times 11, 121. 25 plus 121 is 145. Nope, that's not right. Sorry, it's 146. Take the square root of both sides, and so, whoops, so we get C is equal to, type in 146, hit your square root, and if we're going to the tenths place, it's going to be 12.1, because it's 0.8, the 8 rounds the 0 up. But remember in the directions it says each unit, so see C is 12.1 units. Each unit represents 2 miles. So what do you suppose we still need to do here? We're going to multiply that 12.1 times 2. And that will tell us how many miles we have. So it's 24.2 miles is the answer. Okay, part B says to the nearest tenth, how many miles is Ashley's house from Carly's house? So I'm going to erase this part on my graph so I have some room here. So from Ashley to Carly's house, it's a little bit a skinny triangle, huh? There's my right angle, so that means this is my C. My base is just 2. What's my height? Should be 10. So let's do the Pythagorean Theorem. 10 squared plus 2 squared equals C squared. 10 squared is 100 plus 4. That would be 104. Square root 104. And you get 10.2. But remember, that's not the answer. Remember, the directions say each unit is 2 miles. So we have to do 10.2 times 2. What would that be? 20.4 miles. All right, whose house does Ashley live the closest to, and by how many miles? Okay, so Ashley from Bridget's is 24.2 miles. Ashley to Carly's is 20.4. So whose house does she live closest to? 20.4 would be closer. So she lives closer to Carly's by how many miles? So we got to find the difference there. So if we do 24.2 minus 20.4, type that in your calculator or figure it out. We get 3.8. So Carly's by 3.8 miles. She's closest by 3.8 miles. Okay, very good.